Namaskar, I am Shubham Alock. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, in the continuation of our marriage series, I am going to talk about quality of marital life and few other combinations. Can you tell me anything in this world that is complete and perfect and harmonious? Reality is that no, you cannot. There is nothing in this world that is complete in itself. There is no relationship in this world that is always harmonious. Even our relationship with our parents, siblings, or anyone goes through ups and downs. Same is a marital relationship. The first and the foremost thing that you should see in a horoscope, that you should judge in a horoscope of a husband and wife, is the type of relationship that they are likely to have. What I want to say, I will give you an example. Suppose the sun is in the seventh house. It generally indicates that the person is ashamed of either financial or say societal status of their spouse. This understanding, if you understand that this is the problem faced by your client, that he is not comfortable taking his wife to parties, if that is the real problem, then you can suggest the appropriate remedies, which is changing their thought, changing their thinking process accordingly, which will benefit their relationship. In the same manner, if moon is in the seventh house, then jealousy is the problem for a relationship. And I'm telling you general traits and something which no one talks about. Although there are other things as well that I'm not touching upon, such as sun in seventh house does indicate a bad marital life because sun gets debilitated in the seventh house of the natural zodiac. If Mars is in the seventh house, then the prime problem in the relationship is comparison. Comparison to someone else. The desire that your partner should change according to your wishes. Mercury in the seventh house does indicate lack of seriousness in the relationship is the problem. Jupiter in the seventh house indicates that a set benchmark or say a certain idol is the problem, right? So to say, if Jupiter is in the seventh house, then generally the husband may have a preconceived notion that wife should be fair in complexion, whereas even if wife gets small wrinkles on her face, he will start losing interest in her. Venus in the seventh house, sexuality is the problem. There can be too much of it. Saturn in the seventh house does indicate that being prejudiced is the problem. Rahu in the seventh house indicates that the real problem is because of cheating. Maybe the spouse was cheated by someone else in a previous relationship and now they are afraid to get involved in the relationship. Whereas Ketu in the seventh house does indicate that the problem in relationship is generally because of the person not really wanting to get married, but the person getting married because of some circumstances such as supporting their family or the thought that how they will spend their remaining part of the life. So these are generally the basic traits of the seventh house, basic traits of planet in the seventh house. These are the most important areas which the couple should work on together. No relationship is flawless, no one is perfect, right? But if the couple works together, they will overcome the problem and they will enjoy a happy marital life. Generally, we previously in the video that I uploaded yesterday talked about how do you find how the marital when the person will get married, whether it will be an early marriage, late marriage, or delayed marriage, or whatever. Today we will be talking about how the marital life will be, and I'm not going to tell you combinations. I'm just going to tell you the basic framework of astrology regarding this. The seventh house indicates marriage. Seventh lord also indicate marriage. The seventh Karaka Venus also indicates marriage. But what is the difference between three of these? The seventh house indicates what is your preconceived notion regarding marriage. Influences over the seventh house does indicate what you thought of your marital life, how you actually wanted it to be. Whereas the seventh lord indicates your actual wife, their physical characteristics, their mental tendencies. And the Karaka Venus indicates what you have expected, or rather say your experiences of previous relationships, or rather say your preconceived notions of related to your wife or related to your spouse or things like that. What I want to say, suppose there is a malefic in the seventh house. Seventh house does indicate the marriage circumstances. A malefic in the seventh house indicates that a bad marital life is a problem on the part of native. Whereas seventh lord being debilitated or being in a bad Rashi does indicate that the spouse is a bad person. Whereas if the Karaka Venus is afflicted, or if Karaka Venus is debilitated, weak, or other kind of negative factors come in contact with Venus, then in that scenario, the demand of the native from the marriage or from the wife will not be practical, right? Whether the demand is unpredictable towards the institution of marriage or towards wife should be seen from the bad placement of Venus with respect to seventh house or seventh lord. When it comes to divorce, it is generally seen from two factors. Very severe malefic influence over seventh house, seventh lord, and Venus does indicate bad marital life, which when the influence gets mixed with the influence of sixth lord and eighth lord or 12th lord, this bad marital life combination can turn into divorce combination. Whereas if the 6th, 8th or 12th lord doesn't come into the picture, but only malefics are afflicting the 7th house, 7th lord or 7th karaka, then in that scenario a very difficult marriage can be there, but divorce won't be there. In some cases where the 6th lord, 8th lord and 12th lord have a relationship with 7th house factors along with malefics, but if those malefics or the lord of the 6th, 8th and 12th house are fairly strong by being in exaltation, Mulatrikona or own Rashi, in that scenario as well, the relationship can be extremely bad, but it won't break. These are the cases where you have to intelligently and cleverly convince the client to change his thinking pattern, to change his behavior pattern and compromise with the situation, because in these cases there are very less chances that divorce will happen. And if the couple decides not to live together, then their almost complete life will either be wasted living in separate homes, living separately, or their complete life will get wasted in in suing each other, going to court and filing cases, but no output will be there. Divorce also happens because of 8th house. Varamihira tells us a combination that if the 8th lord is in a malefic Navamsha, then in the Dasha Antardasha of that malefic planet, divorce may happen. If 8th lord in Navamsha is afflicted by malefics, then also divorce can be there. or if 8th house is under severe malefic affliction, then also divorce can be there. But if the 8th lord is strong by being in exaltation, Mulat Trikona or own Rashi, what we call as Sthanavali, then in that scenario, divorce will not happen. Right? So the first part of giving an astrological counseling or giving an astrological prediction regarding marriage is to decide the extent of happiness and the extent of problems in marital life. The extent of problems in marital life. If I see in a horoscope that there is no easy divorce, then it will be a bad thing on my part to advise the couple or even instigate them towards the path of separation. Because in that scenario, they won't get divorced, they will live separated, and the life of both the couple will get destroyed. Whereas if I see sufficient chances of divorce, then in that scenario, owing to the circumstances and what the native wants, what the client wants, you can suggest them to think for a divorce. But judiciously, you have to contemplate over the matter whether divorce is there or not. But that is in the case of a bad marital life. The first responsibility as an astrologer you have is that you try to save a relationship. You will only be able to save a relationship when you know what is the tendency of a planet. Then based on the relationship of the planet with marriage factors, you should advise a behavior appropriate to the planet, a behavior in synchronization with the behavior of the planet to the native, and almost in 98% of the cases, when the person starts behaving the exact same way that planets want him to behave, problem gets sorted out. If it doesn't happen, then in 2% of the cases, you need remedies for marriage. And let me be very frank and very clear. Whenever marital life calls for a remedy, the remedy is never easy, remedy is always difficult. Because you have to cater the needs of two charts, two individuals and two lives. I will share a small tip before I end this video, before I say goodbye to you. That is, if there is a malefic in the 8th house, from the Lagna or from the 7th house, or the worst malefic influence over the 8th house, or the worst malefic influence over marriage factors, will decide after how many years of marriage person will get divorced. The year in this regard is based on Vimshottari Dasha. So to say, if the most malefic influence over 8th house or marriage factors is of Sun, then the person will get divorced in either 6 years or 6 months or 6 days or 6 weeks. For Moon, it is 10 year, 10 month, 10 days or 10 weeks. For Mars, it is once again 6 years, 6 months, 6 days or 6 weeks. And so on and so forth. I am pretty sure that you people know how much time period a planet governs in Vimshottari Dasha. The same time period is the time period when the marriage should break. Either in those many years or those many weeks or in those many days the marital life will break. This is one snapshot formula using which you can predict the longevity of marriage. And this should be seen from 3 places: the birth chart, the muhurta at the time of marriage, and from the chart when the first menstruation of the girl happens. But generally the third chart is not available, so you have to use the first 2 charts only: the birth chart of the bride and groom and the marriage muhurta chart. I am on 21st and 22nd of March 2020 doing a webinar on marital life, It will be a 4-hour webinar where I will be teaching very intricate details of marital life, and it is just one of the many webinars on the topic to come. If you want to join that, comment below or write to me over Facebook, mail, WhatsApp, wherever, right? In that webinar, we will learn about marital life in complete detail. We will learn in-depth details about marital life. So if you are wishing to join the webinar, comment below or write to me. Okay. Many thanks for patiently watching the video. Namaste.